I started flying in 1966. I was flying Concorde from 76 for 25 years, and I've stayed in aviation since then. So I've got nearly 50 years of thinking about these subjects. I was also lucky enough to have various ground jobs. For instance, I was in charge of operations control in British Airways, where my little department controlled a whole fleet of 300 odd aeroplanes. And all the issues that come through operations control in the end. So the chance to think about this, to be aware of the benefits that come from having capacity, have always been apparent to me. So the experience of flying and knowing what you could do with aeroplanes, as well as the knowledge of the ground operations and the aircraft operations, I guess put me in a, if not a unique position, a fairly special group of people that had this combined knowledge. The case for Heathrow is overwhelming. It's a transport hub. It's where people from all over the UK actually go to connect to flights all around the world. And the UK, with its 60 million people, has only got room for one hub. And it's Heathrow. And the development of the Thames Valley, the development of Western London, so many big companies have got their head offices here in the UK, near London, simply because of the connectivity of Heathrow. So it would be a real boost if we could expand even further, because Heathrow's been full for at least 10 years. Boost for the UK, for the economy, for London, and it would be just great to see it used to the benefit of the country, because it is a worldwide brand. This was not a eureka moment deciding that the best way to expand and give extra capacity at Heathrow was just to extend the runways. And I've been thinking about it for decades, literally decades, because as well as flying, I had various jobs within British Airways which concerned delays and capacity and so on. And I looked at, over the years, at many, many different options. But this was the cheapest, easiest, least disruptive, and gives all the capacity that we need. The support has grown the more we've explained it, and the more that people realise that it's a cheap option compared to the other proposals put forward. The safety case for this runway setup is clearly very important. We have submitted a very full safety case to the Civil Aviation Authority, but most of my life has been concerned with improving the safety of commercial aviation. And so I wouldn't put anything in that I didn't think did not improve safety. So there are many features of it which actually can improve safety. And in particular, we'll have a big safety zone, a buffer zone in between the two runways, the first half for landing, the second half for takeoff. We've done all the analysis and it really looks very good. So I have no safety concerns. Indeed, quite the opposite. I think there's some safety pluses which we will offer. The noise levels will be at worst the same as they are now, even with more aeroplanes, because the modern aeroplanes coming in have to be quieter, and also there are many techniques that we can adopt to reduce the noise over those local communities that the aeroplanes fly over. One particular advantage is early in the morning. If we continue with night quota flights, then they can all land on our second runway. So they can land 2.5 miles further to the west, and that takes 2.5 miles worth of people out of the noise disruption over London. And that's one of our unique selling points. In the future, from 2020, for instance, all aeroplanes must be Chapter 14, as it's called, which are quiet, much quieter. And if anybody's heard the Dreamliner fly, they'll know what I mean. But in addition to that, there's a whole series of things that can be done. There's different ways of operating the aeroplane, for instance, putting the undercarriage down later. Possibly we can do slightly steeper intermediate approaches, which means that the engines are idle and there's no drag below the wing. Plus, and this is a big one, with modern navigation systems, we can both concentrate and spread the noise. So we can concentrate over one route for, say, an hour or a day or a week, and then switch it to another route. so that the same people are not getting the noise all the time. I think that's very important. It's not really used on approaches yet, except one or two airports around the world have started to do it. But there's a whole series of things we can do, then, both in terms of new aeroplane, new techniques for flying them, and different approach paths and different air traffic control procedures. Together, they will make a huge difference. And I think it's safe to say that we can have more aeroplanes over the people east and west of the airport, more aeroplanes but less noise than they get now, except for the last 3 or 4 miles, when the aeroplanes obviously have to come onto the centre line of the runway. The other big feature is that we take up very little extra land. The community that will be affected is to the west. That's a place called Poyle. It's on the edge of Colnbrook. And that's where our runway would go through some houses and through an industrial park. But I think it's 70% of that industrial park is built up of warehouses for cargo operations, which are for the airport. So it would mean more business for them, even though they might have to move. The local communities have reacted far more positively than I thought. In part, that was because the suggestions about the island airport were that Heathrow could close. Now, the people all around Heathrow thought, well, we're not sure about expansion, but we surely don't want it to close. So this polarised views, and they said, okay, Heathrow's got to stay. So the reaction has been really mixed, but mainly positive. And certainly all the polls that have been done by independent people say, actually, in the community, more people want to see it expand than not Heathrow. And that's because many of them work there. There's 100,000 jobs, and expansion will bring even more. The roads around Heathrow are quite busy now, and the M25 would be in the way of our new runway. So the plans which have been seen by the Highways Agency is to just move the M25 to the west and make it wider, more suitable for the traffic that's there and will be there. But there'll be minimal disruption to the M25. Surface access is clearly crucial to any of the ideas. Anyone who drives around the M25 to the west of London knows it's full. So we've got to do something to relieve some of that congestion. Our plans for the M25 diversion will help, because it will be probably 8 lanes each way. But we've also got to increase the number of people travelling by coach and by train and by underground. And so we've got some extensive plans to build a station to the north of the airport where it connects with the Great Western Main Line and Crossrail, and some further links down to the south of Heathrow to go into Waterloo, plus various road changes. The idea with the hub, as we've called it, to the north, the station, is that we can have a big car park, and all the traffic coming from the M25, from the M4, the M40, the M1 that's going to the airport can go into that car park. And then we've proposed a pretty futuristic transit system into the airport, which will take less than 5 minutes. I mean, it's just a normal airport train transit type journey. But the proposal will certainly have a great impact on the surface access, and therefore remove some of the surface congestion which is there now. So we've got a good case in terms of finance. It's easy to do. There's very little disruption, no communities destroyed, and the noise of the aeroplanes, we can do all sorts of mitigation to reduce the effect of them. Heathrow is a great airport, and it needs to expand for the benefit of not just Heathrow and London, but the UK. Our proposal is simple, it's cost effective, and it produces all the capacity that's needed. So the simple question is, why wouldn't you do it?